And Louis French, the Tory MP for Old Bexley and Sidcup, has a petition, doesn't he, opposing the expansion?
Oh, you talk of the devil there, and honestly, I like to deliver for you. I'm actually sat with Louis French right this very second. I'm going to paint the picture for you. Imagine a very sort of oak-esque desk in a sort of conservative office. There's pictures of his face surrounding this office, adorning it, saying Louis French standing up for Old Bexley and Sidcup. And across the desk is a relatively new MP with a Union Jack coffee cup, but doing the brief. Louis, you've got a petition out right now about this ULEZ zone. What made you firstly take out this petition, and why do you think it's so important?
Well, good morning, Michael, and good morning to all your listeners on BBC Radio Kent. I'd like to firstly just thank the thousands of residents across Bexley and Kent that have signed my petition. As you've outlined, and many of your listeners will know, this is outrageous what's being proposed. I see this not through the prism of a way of tackling clean air, as the Mayor likes to suggest. This is a greenwash tax. There's no point dressing it up. And the cost of around £4,500 a year to pay this is going to cripple people. And it's going to cripple local businesses. It's going to hurt families that may live on either side of the Dartford border. I use the word border loosely. And it's also going to impact key workers. So I launched the petition mainly because it was the main issue that people wanted to talk about. They're saying, Louis, what are you doing about ULEZ? Are you going to fight Khan on this? And we fought Khan during my by-election around the Greater London Boundary Charge, which was the initial proposal to raise money for TfL. The black hole he has created in TfL finances. So I think people were very sceptical about this actually being about improving air quality. I think the comparison, some of the data, I'm not going to use the word dodgy dossier, but it does spring to mind when I look at some of the data, using comparisons of the impact on a ULEZ in a very centralised position where people have clear alternatives with the tube and other transport options compared to outer London. It's just not comparable. So the latest figures are from TfL, this could impact around 160,000 cars and around 40,000 vans. That's just in Greater London, let alone the impact, like I said, on people in Kent that are coming up to work. The Metropolitan Police estimate 50% of police officers don't live in London. So the impact on key workers, it's huge what is happening. So we've had thousands of people sign the petition. And if you haven't already, please do sign on my petition, which is available online.
So if they want to sign that petition to effectively stop this ULEZ zone, how do they get that petition? Where do they find it? What do they look for?
That's a great question. So you can go onto my website, which is louisfrench.org.uk, or just simply Google Louis French ULEZ petition. I'm sorry, you'll have to see my ugly face on videos and talking about this, but it's quite simple to find it. Put your details in, and we'll make sure you're updated. And I will submit that petition as part of my objections to the Mayor before the deadline, the 29th of July.
Critics have said, though, it's easy to say, oh, we can't do this, it's not cost effective, but they need to look at the environment, you need to look at saving lives. If you don't support this scheme, what can you offer instead?
Well, that's a fair question. I spent most of my career looking at sustainable finance and different options. So, I'm not opposed to trying to improve the environment. Here in Bexley, we're the #1 borough in London for recycling, for example. We have, this is quite a green borough. But I think if you look very closely at the detail of what the Mayor's proposing, he has put aside £400 million of taxpayers' money to install cameras across Greater London. Now think about how that money could be used better to improve air quality. Whether that's improving scrappage schemes and having a proper scrappage scheme to help people change. Whether that's actually improving charging points in outer London, which is a particular problem. People that do want to transition and can afford to go electric don't have somewhere to plug the vehicle in. Or even more better, let's think about his key job as keeping London moving, public transport. Think about what he could do with that £400 million of capital investment improving public transport out of London. Instead, what we're seeing cuts to bus services and we're seeing taxes being raised on drivers out of London.
You mentioned a scrappage scheme there. Just briefly, should that scrappage scheme go further? We're hearing people say that actually, at the minute, it only works in London. Should it be now a national scrappage scheme? Would you support that goal?
Well, firstly, I'd say it doesn't work in London. I'm particularly aware of a number of taxi drivers that live locally that have financially been absolutely crippled and bankrupted by this potential scrappage scheme. The costs of a new taxi far outweigh the benefits that are being provided by the Mayor, probably about a tenth of the cost. So I would say the scrappage scheme is not working for London, let alone for outer London. But I do agree that longer term, we have to look at alternatives. And the problem we've got at the moment, and again, around the timing of this, coming in from August next year, everyone knows there's been a shortage of new vehicles because of semiconductor chip shortages. So actually people's ability to buy a new car or to move cars is just not there at the moment. So the timing of this couldn't be worse with the cost of living and the actual impact within the car manufacturing market. It's not as easy to switch as some people would say.
Not as easy to switch, Anna, and also something that needs to be stopped. That's the message from Louis French, the MP for Old Bexley and Sidcup, whose petition's now running and says he'll put that to Sadiq Khan, who wants to extend this ULEZ scheme right up to the Kent border.